It's time for the only podcast dedicated to spaghetti westerns and the people who made them. Join hosts Jay Jennings and Tom Betts for the Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns podcast, which starts now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns podcast. I am your host, Jay Jennings, Spaghetti Westerns collector. And my co-host, as always, the one and only Tom Betts. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Jay. How you doing?
Nice to see you. Today we have a great topic at hand. It's a great character actor, film noirs, spaghetti westerns, John Ireland. You remember he played gangsters in a lot of those black and white films, but he made a lot of westerns too. Doesn't get, I think, enough credit for the films he's made as an American actor in his later years, moving on to Italy to make some spaghetti westerns. But he did, and Tom and I have compiled his spaghetti western career. And we're going to go over his films, look at a couple posters, and talk about his impact on the genre. And Tom, we are being watched on iTunes, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast, Tom.
Very good.
Or listened to as well. So we want to welcome our new listenership. Tom, you were a fan of John Ireland. You liked him, right?
John Ireland was one of those actors. I don't think they knew what to do with him. Like you said, he acted in gangster movies, westerns, film noir. They didn't know whether he was a leading man or a supporting actor. So he ranges all over the place. And he's another one like Milian, Jay. You never see him smile. You know, unless it's one of those smirks like I'm going to kill you.
Right?
Yeah. So he's a different type of actor.
Of films. I'm trying to open them up here in my, which I always do before the show, but I kind of forgot today. But
well, you're
fine.
Busy because my mic went out. So
Tom's
we apologize.
My
mic went out.
So thanks to Mike Betts, it all worked out, Tom.
I knew he kept him around here for something.
Before he got John Ireland and got started, Tom, you know, he's had a long career in other like straight melodramas and stuff.
Yep.
We're not going to go through all of those because that would be quite the sure. Career. But we'll start off how his birth and how he got started, Tom. And as I try to show some photos of the years.
Okay, well, he's born John Benjamin Ireland in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, on January 30th, 1914. Early in life, he lived in New York City, where his education ended after the 7th grade. He went to work to help his family make ends meet during the Great Depression. He never knew his natural father. His mother was a piano teacher named Gracie Ferguson. She remarried a Michael Noon, a vaudevillian, and had 3 other children, a daughter, Catherine, a son named Tommy, the future actor-comedian Tommy Noonan, and another son named Michael. Their last name was Noon, Noone. Ireland never knew for sure where his last name came from.
I wonder, Tom.
Yeah, I don't know. The postman, the milkman, I don't know. Anyways, he was a swimmer, once competing with Johnny Weissmuller. He performed underwater stunts at a carnival and worked as a barker. He then went to work at the Davenport Theater in Manhattan and received free acting lessons. In 1941, he made his Broadway debut in a production of Macbeth with Maurice Evans and Judith Anderson. Other Broadway plays would soon follow. Ireland then signed with 20th Century Fox and made his screen debut as Private Windy in the 1945 war film A Walk in the Sun. This was followed by Wake Up and Dream, Behind Green Lights, It Shouldn't Happen to a Dog, and as Billy Clanton in John Ford's My Darling Clementine, all in 1946. In April 1948, Ireland signed a contract with Columbia Pictures where he was nominated for an Oscar as Best Supporting Actor in All the King's Men, starring another spaghetti western actor, Broderick Crawford. This made him the first Vancouver-born actor to receive an Academy Award nomination. Ireland was then featured as Bob Ford in the low-budget I Shot Jesse James.
I think that's the one that we first heard about him, Tom.
I remember him from My Darling Clementine.
Oh yeah.
but he didn't have a big part in that. But yeah, this is probably his biggest role that took notice. He was also as Johnny Ringo in
Another
Gunfight at
favorite.
OK Corral. Yep, 57. During the mid-50s, he also directed such films as The Fast and the Furious, The Glass Cage, and Hell's Horizons. In the 1960s and 70s, Ireland appeared in films and TV series in England, Italy, and Spain. John was married 3 times to Elaine Sheldon from 1940 to 49, with whom he had 2 sons, John and Peter. Then he married Joanne Drew from 49 to 57, and then Daphne Merrick Cameron in 62, with whom he had a daughter also named Daphne and a son named Cameron. Ireland moved to Santa Barbara, where he operated a restaurant and where he died of leukemia on March 21st, 1992. He was 78.
Yep. What film is this from, Tom?
That looks like OK Corral.
Just testing you, Tom. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to be talking about John Ireland is one of my favorites as a kind of a Ben Johnson type, Tom.
Yep, Mean Ben Johnson.
Right. Directed a couple of film noirs, Tom.
Yep.
Which is awesome. Very talented man. Later, he appeared in some B horror films like Cameron Mitchell and
Yeah, that's a good
stuff like
comparison.
that. But that's what they did. In the 60s and 70s, it was a pattern. A lot of these older actors either went to Italy and made spaghetti westerns, or they went and made American B horror movies.
Yeah.
But anyway, so his first 2 projects, Tom, were never really made, although interesting to mention at the top of the show.
Yeah, I can't find anything on these 2 things. The first one is called Sherry. It was a 1964 British-Spanish television co-production to be directed by Lawrence Harvey. That's all I can find about it.
Wow, think about that. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if Cherry was named after Cherry Valance, but that was back in the 40s, so
I think it
doubt
was,
it was
Tom.
the same character. But it could be. If it was a Western, yes.
And then Incident at Seldom Springs, Tom.
It's another one. That was a British-Yugoslavian co-production, 65, again produced by Lawrence Harvey, written by Lawrence Harvey, and it starred both of them, Harvey and Ireland, but I cannot find anything on either one
I
of
would
them.
kill to see any of those unproduced films, Tom.
Always.
That
Yep.
sounds anything with Lawrence Harvey in it, who's a great actor, director. So, anyways, he did start with actually a pretty good spaghetti western to be in, Tom. It's not a classic by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a good, solid spaghetti western.
Yeah, he's a first rate in this one. It's Odio per Odio, Hate for Hate. 67 Italian production, directed by Domenico Paolella. Stars Antonio Sabato and John Ireland. In this one, bank robber Jim Cooper, played by John Ireland, has trouble with his murderous partner, Moxon, played by Mirko Ellis, during a job. Afterwards, they fall out, and Cooper is caught and jailed for life, but not before he has met and befriended Miguel, played by Antonio Sabato, a Mexican gold miner and would-be artist who promises to get Cooper's family to safety across the border. However, Moxon has kidnapped the family and made off with all the cash. Eventually, Cooper breaks out of prison and, thinking that Miguel has double-crossed him, goes after him for revenge. On finding out his mistake, the 2 team up and inevitably track down Moxon.
Right. Yeah, we've discussed this, as you said before on previous shows. It's similar to One-Eyed Jacks and the Hills Run
Storyline,
Red.
right. And Hills Run Red, right.
Right. So tell us about the last 3 talking points, Tom, for about a minute.
Well, it's an early Mexican Revolutionary Western. It takes place, that's why, in Mexico and the border line in Texas. That's why Sabato's trying to get Ireland's family out of Mexico because of the revolution going on. The 2 directors, Domenico Paolella and producer Italo Zingarelli, both supposedly directed parts of this film. So they just had different directing styles, so the film itself becomes very disjointed when you watch it. For me, it's one of Ireland's best performances.
Yeah, oh, definitely, Tom.
He gets to show a whole full range of expressions in this one, from a total bastard to a father figure, and then remorseful over the death of his family.
Right. No, I mean, one of the great titles, too, of all time, Tom, even though if you didn't know any better, Hate for Hate, could you get away with that today, Tom?
No, not at all.
It would be
Not at all.
retitled The Story of, a Villain in the West, Tom.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, but great shot from a great lobby card. John Ireland completely. Could it be called, Tom, maybe the B actors version of a John Wayne, Tom?
Yeah, could be. Very well.
You know what I mean? Like a low budget. I mean, obviously didn't have the charisma and stuff.
Yep.
It's like saying John Carradine, could be, that year's Gary Oldman. You're mixing both, legendary and just very good acting. But no, I Hate for Hate's a really good film to start with. Anyway, Tom, after that, he followed it up with, Run Man Run. Not a bad follow-up, Tom.
Yep, a lot of times we forget that he's in this one. Uomo Corey, also known as Big Gun Down 2 and Run Man Run, 1967. It's an Italian-French film co-production directed by the great Sergio Solima. And as we know in this one, it's a story. The film is set on the verge of the Mexican Revolution, but just barely only touches the theme. It's more of an adventure treasure hunt for gold. While in prison, Cuchillo, played by Tomas Milian, is given the location of a cache of gold by a revolutionary named Ramirez, played by Jose Torres. When they break out, Ramirez is killed, so Cuchillo goes to this village, kisses his wife Dolores, played by the great Chelo Alonso, goodbye, and goes to Texas after the gold. He's to return it to revolutionary leader Santillana, played by Ireland. He's soon being tracked by a former revolutionary, Cassidy, played by Donald O'Brien, who's heard about the treasure. Before the film is over, half of Mexico is after the gold, and a huge gunfight ensues. We talked about this before, that maybe the weak point in this film is Donald O'Brien, because they try and pawn him off as the Lee Van Cleef replacement from the Big Gun Down, and it just doesn't fill the bill. If they'd have dressed him different, give him a little bit different background, probably would have worked a little bit better.
Right. Ireland plays Santillana.
Yeah, the Mexican revolutionary leader. Gets away with it. The problem with this one is if people that know Ireland, he's dubbed in this one, and it's not his own voice.
Well, that's how it was a lot of times. I didn't know Steve Reeves wasn't dubbed, Tom.
Yeah, right.
For years, I thought, wow, the coolest voice in Italian cinema.
Exactly.
And you meet him at a convention, he's very soft-spoken.
Hi, Jay. Hi, Jay.
Yeah. So anyway, Run Man Run, a good follow-up, not a big role, but still a memorable one. And Tom, if you blink in the next film, you won't see him in Via Rides, Tom.
Yeah, we include this one because he's in it. Via Rides.
He's uncredited, Tom.
Yeah, he's uncredited. 67 USA Spanish film co-production, directed by Buzz Kulik. Pilot Lee Arnold, played by Robert Mitchum, uses his plane to run guns to the Federales. He is forced to stay in Mexico for a while when the landing gear in his plane must be repaired, and then quickly finds out how cruel the Federales really are. When he's captured by Pancho Villa, played by Yul Brynner, and his revolutionary forces, Villa offers him a choice: aid the revolutionaries or die. So he picks the choice of helping the revolutionaries. But in this one,
a lot of people are in this, Tom. Aldo Sambrell.
Oh, there's a
Herbert Lom, Frank Wolf.
Yeah, Frank Wolf is in it. There's a lot of Fernando Reyes in it. Antonio Ruiz from For a Few Dollars More.
And this is a brutal movie. It's just people being gunned down every 2 minutes, Tom.
Yeah, there's a lot of action in this one.
No, I'm just saying the brutality and the mowing down of people for no reason. Well, I love revolutionary films, Tom.
Yeah.
And for years, I didn't even include this for some odd reason. But then you turned me on to it.
Well,
and I rewatched it. I was like, Mitchum is just wasted. What do you want me to do? Sit here?
Bronson plays a actual historical figure named Rodolfo Fierro, who is Pancho Villa's right-hand man. And he was really brutal. He's the one, and they show it in the film, he stacks up a bunch of people, federales, whatever, or people fighting for him, 4 or 5 deep and then shoots them in the front and sees
Yeah,
how
let
far
them
the
go
bullet
one
will
by
go.
one, Tom.
Yep. Well, okay, it goes through 5. Let's add 6
Boom,
next
boom,
time.
boom, boom, boom. Then Mitchum's like, is it really, you really
Whoa.
should be killing these people? And Bronson's like, you want to be next, gringo?
Right. Right. Another
Oh,
thing,
it's
most
a
people
fun movie, Tom.
well, people don't know Sam Peckinpah wrote the original screenplay and he was going to direct it. Brenner objected because it made Villa look like a villain, so the screenplay was rewritten by Robert Towne, and Buzz Kulik was hired to direct. So apparently Yule didn't want to look like the villain that Villa really was.
Yeah.
And then we come to what you said, the cameo. Basically, if you watch this film, like Jay said, John Ireland is not credited. So at the end of the movie, all of a sudden they show this barbershop scene, and in one of the chairs is John Ireland getting a shave and a haircut, and he meets up with Dave, who's Robert Mitchum, and he talks about talks about Pancho Villa and how he escaped from General Huerta's jail, and a manhunt is looking for him. So Mitchum gets this look in his eye like he's going to go back down to Mexico.
Right.
But
And no, it's a fun film, but just prepare for brutality. I mean, what film isn't? There's the one with Jose Terran. What movie is that, Tom, where he's picking him off?
Oh yeah, there's a couple of them like that.
Is that Django, Tom?
Yeah, well, Django, he plays Ringo. Yeah, he's a murderer in that. Yep.
Yeah, they open up a gate and let some peasants run through, and they all just laugh, giggle, and shoot them all.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
the one
that's
with
what made
the-
a spaghetti western a spaghetti western. You know,
Right.
people trying to get away from being killed, and you're shot in the back, and some guy laughs about it and has a cigar.
Yep.
But anyway,
That's
Rio
like,
Morte. I love that.
That's like in Adios Sabato, where they turn him loose in the street to run down, and they shoot. Skimmel shoots him from his balcony, one shot at a time. Yep.
So anyway, Tom, great film as a whole. Everybody else who's in it, of course. So next time we go to the aptly titled "Go for Broke," Tom.
Oh, Go for Broke. I got to find that one. This is. Hang on, Jay. I got him out of order. I got it. Back on track. Go for Broke. Tutto per tutto, also known as One for All, Guns of Courage, All Out, and Go for Broke is the USA title.
I think I remember All Out too, Tom.
All Out. Done in '68, it's Italian-Spanish, directed by Humphrey, who's actually Umberto Lenzi. This one has John Ireland, Mark Damon, Fernando Sancho, Monica Randall, and Eduardo Fajardo. So we've talked about this one a couple of times. This is about Owl, an aging gunslinger played by Ireland, and Johnny Sweet, played by Mark Damon, a young card sharp from a partnership. When they form a partnership, and when they hear rumors about a stash of gold that was stolen from the Bank of El Paso. Also interested in the gold are Carrancha, played by Fernando Sancho, and Paco, played by Eduardo Fajardo, two lowlives, a gang of cutthroats, and Maria Monica Randall, a lovely but duplicitous senorita, all join in the hunt. We've talked about this with Mark Damon. We've talked about it with Fernando Sancho. But it's a good buddy film.
Right. There's several references to the Dollar Trilogy, Tom.
Yeah, there's a watch in it, teaming of a younger and older gunfighter who team up to go after the outlaws. So, yeah, there's a couple of references to the Dollar films.
And the odd thing is what Mark Damon is dubbed, Tom.
Yeah, instead of John Ireland being dubbed, Mark Damon's dubbed in this one.
Right. It's a good little film, actually not bad at all. Mark Damon and I think John Ireland made a couple films together, Tom, if I'm not mistaken.
It could have. Good
There's
shot
some
there.
artwork, Tom. You know I love spaghetti western artwork, Tom.
Yep.
I do collect those as well. Lithographs. If I framed them all, I'd have 300 frames, Tom. All these little artsy, from pulp novels to comic books. I just cut them out, Tom. I don't care.
Gotcha.
I frame them the way I want to do it. It looks pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's, as I said, not a bad film. Another teaming of the two of them. So let's see. What is next, Tommy?
I've got Dead for a Dollar.
Oh, not a pistol for 100 coffins, Tom.
No, not yet. Not yet.
All right, what's Dead for a Dollar about, Tom?
Okay, Dead for a Dollar is Timazo Raccomandati a Dio, which is also known as I'll Kill You and Recommend You to God, which is a UK title, and a translation of the Italian. It's also called Trusting is Good, Shooting is Better. It's a 68 Italian, directed by Osvaldo Civarani. In it is George Hilton, John Ireland, Sandra Milo, Piero Vita, and Gordon Mitchell is in this one. And it's about a fake priest named Glenn Reno, played by George Hilton, who pretends to celebrate the funeral of Roy Fulton, played by Gordon Mitchell. He's actually bearing $200,000, but when his accomplices, the colonel, played by Ireland, and the Portuguese, played by Piero Vita, flee with the booty, a desperate search begins. The intervention of the bandit's lover, Liz, played by Sandra Milo, complicates the intrigue plot with tricks, lies, and betrayals. This is one of those where, the treasure is switched from one person to another, lots of double
search
crosses.
for the treasure,
triple
Tom Betts.
crosses. Yep. It's more of it's not a complete comedy, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, it's okay. The title is probably one of the better things of this. It's one of those quick ones. We've discussed maybe 500 films along those ways. You're going to come across ones. They're just time fillers where the title and the poster is better than the film. But there's the character he played.
Yep, he was plays the leader of the gang, but now he's just one of the pursuers of the treasure. And again, his voice is dubbed in this one, so don't be alarmed when you see it.
Don't be alarmed, folks. So, as I said, quite the spaghetti western run, though. When they needed someone, an American veteran in the background, or to say a few things, they go to a longtime stalwart film noir star and director, John Ireland, which is fantastic. Anyway, a little bit more to do. Now it's time for a pistol for 100 coffins, Tom.
Okay, Pistol for 100 Coffins. We've talked about this one because one of the stars in this one is Peter Lee Lawrence. It's called Una Pistol per Cento Bare, Pistol for 100 Graves, a Pistol for 100 Coffins, 68 Italian-Spanish, directed by Umberto Lenzi. And this one's rather unique. I like this one because it's different. At the end of the Civil War, Jim Kid Slade, played by Peter Lee Lawrence, a young Confederate soldier and conscientious objector, returns to his ranch to find his parents murdered and the ranch practically destroyed. He finds and kills 3 of the murderers and learns the name of the 4th, a certain Corbett, played by Piero Lulli. Finally, he discovers Corbett as the leader of a gang that has plans to rob a local bank and is invited to help defend the town from the bandits. Teaming with a preacher named Douglas, played by John Ireland, who has an agenda of his own, the two take a stand against Corbett. Basically, in this one, you see John Ireland in the sidelines, just sitting around in a saloon, letting Peter Lee Lawrence do all the heavy lifting.
Right.
Until towards the end of the film. This is the one where there's a jail full of insane inmates, and they escape and wreak havoc on the town, and then all of a sudden they disappear and they don't pop up until the very end, which makes for a tricky ending. Once again, Ireland plays a father figure who basically sits on the sidelines, as I said, and watches the action until he sees an opportunity to intervene. And once again, his voice has been dubbed on the English track.
Yes, what's new, Tom? There seems to be an actor whose voice was dubbed a lot. I don't know why. They actually should have used...
Yeah, he's got a
pretty
distinctive
good-sounding
voice. Yeah, he's got a great voice. Must have been busy.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things where his particular character fell through the loop and they just had the need to dub it, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so then after a Pistol for 100 Coffins, which is a great title as well, then I think he did A Taste of Death, Tom, where he played who? L. Ralph?
Which one are we looking at? Taste of Death. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, I'm El Ralph, not just
Ralph.
Ralph, Tom.
Yeah, he plays Dan L. Ralph, or Dan L. I think is what his one of his characters' name is,
I
and
see.
Ralph is
Okay.
another one. Anyways, it's Quanto Costa Morire, the Italian title, translated into The Cost of Dying or The Taste of Death. 68 Italian French. This one's directed by Sergio Moroli. In this one, it's got John Ireland, Andrea Giordana, Betsy Bell, Bruno Corazzari. And it's about Scaife, played by Bruno Corazzari, guns down some cowboys and takes their cattle. The cow thieves find themselves stranded in the mountains and terrorize the local town. The town's sheriff, Ranson, played by Raymond Pellegrin, knows what kind of men these are and tries to convince the townfolk to run them out. Scaife proceeds to kill Ranson. Tony, played by Andrea Giordano, Ranson's adopted son, now wants revenge, and L, played by Ireland, Scaife's gunman, agrees to help him. This one isn't available, and I don't know why. It's a snow western. That's why they get trapped in this town.
Snow Western. I love that, Tom.
Yeah.
Another term coined by Tom.
And it's a little hidden gem as far as I'm concerned, but it's not available on video or
Commercially,
DVD.
I think I have it, Tom, from Parts Unknown.
Yeah, and again, Ireland switches from the bad guy to the good guy, or at least he helps the town get rid of the gang.
Yes, Tom. He's a gunman with a conscience, as you put it.
There you
Tom.
go.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, he's a killer, but near the end, it's an episode of Ponderosa, right, Tom?
Yeah, it also reminds me of the Specialist with Johnny Halliday in a way. Some of the
Oh,
scenes.
well, don't compare that to The Specialist, Tom. But anyway, that's fine. So then after this film, I think he could say he made, would you say what he's most known for, or one that's his best spaghetti western?
Which one are you talking about now? Gatling Gun?
Of course, Tom.
Of course. Yeah, Gatling Gun is with him and Robert Woods and Evelyn Stewart, Gerard Herder, Roberto Camardiel are all in it. It was done in 68, Italian-Spanish. Director is Paolo Bianchini. And this one's about Richard Gatling, played by Ennio Balbo, wants to offer the machine gun he has invented to the government. But Tarpus, played by Ireland, has other ideas and kidnaps the man along with his prototype. Chris Tanner, Robert Woods, then tries to track them down. And this one's basically Robert Woods versus John Ireland film. And it's got a lot of intrigue and a lot of action. And I think I mentioned this one before when we talked about Robert Woods. He just does all his stunts in this one because of his size. They couldn't find any big Spanish stuntmen to do his dirty work.
Well, the reason I like this, Tom, is anything with a Gatling gun I'm a fan of. William Holden and the Wild Bunch, Django, of course, and John Ireland, probably his most badass.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Still from a movie for him.
Yep. It's also basically a detective movie, but it's well done. Tension is kept throughout the film. And like I said, it's sparsed with a bunch of action, so it never gets dull.
No, especially when it's called Gatling Gun. Not to be confused with an American TV movie, right,
Yeah,
Tom?
the Woody Strode Gatling
Although
gun.
that's not bad in itself, but I prefer this one, I'm afraid.
Oh, yeah.
So moving on, Tom. Another great title. You had Hate for Hate. Why not Revenge for Revenge, Tom?
Yeah, Vendetta per Vendetta, Vengeance for Vengeance, Revenge for Revenge, 68 Italian. Directed by Ray Calloway, who's Mario Colucci. This one has John Ireland, John Hamilton, Laura Donanusiak from Django. And this one is about Shalico, who's played by John Hamilton. John Hamilton is really, his real name is Johnny Medici. And he's a stranger who arrives in Major Bowers' town. Bowers is played by Ireland. He accidentally ends up in the sack with the Major's wife, played by Anne, Laura Donanusiak. Bauer has her whipped for her adultery and accidentally kills her. Bauer suspects Anne has told Shalico where her father's prospected gold is hidden. He goes after Shalico, and Shalico goes after Bauer's gang. So this is a minor. Western.
Oh, it's very minor, Tom. The
Yep.
title is 10 times better than the movie.
But again, Ireland plays a crazed, brutal tyrant.
Right,
So
in
it's
some
worth hitting.
capacity, landowner, racist, a gangster with a conscience, you name it, Tom. A lot of actors played that role. It was like a revolving door of who could we get? It's like 3 or 4 or 5 of those guys, right, Tom?
Yep, and this is all Ireland's film. So if you like John Ireland, this is probably the one to see.
Right. So then, Tom, he joined his buddy Robert Woods again, Tom, for a sequel to the McKennas, Tom.
Yeah, you call it a dollar. It's also called A Dollar in a Grave, Challenge of the McKennas, Challenge of McKenna. Badlands Drifter was the video release title over here, which was really confusing because it didn't make any sense to any of us, and we hadn't seen the film, so we're going, what in the heck is that? Also is called Amen. It's a 1969 Italian-Spanish film co-production directed by Leon Klimovsky. And apparently this is one that actually Leon Klimovsky actually directed, didn't use him just for the tax
He
write-off.
usually makes werewolf and horror movies. But, Tom, what was the second title that you mentioned for this film?
Dollar in a Grave?
Yeah, A Dollar and a Grave. I have to use that for something.
That's a good one, yeah. Good title. This was not available anywhere. It's about Jonas McKenna, played by Ireland, a former priest, becomes embroiled in the drama raging between Don Diego, played by Roberto Camardiel, a Mexican rancher, his unhappy daughter, played by named Barbara, played by Daniela Giordano, and his psychotic son, Chris, played by Robert Woods. While dealing with his own issues of guilt and a loss of faith, a new relationship with a local brothel keeper seems to offer a fresh start, but the rancher and his son are set on making him pay for his interference, and his own inner demons are never far away. This one's a strange one, really, for Ireland, because he sort of walks through it because he's in a daze. He doesn't know what he wants to be or what he wants to do, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah, it's a weird role. He plays like, what, an ex-priest, Tom?
Yeah, plays an ex-priest, got a guilty conscience, doesn't want to get involved in other people's problems, but he's forced to. And, of course, Robert Woods plays a psychotic, so he's excellent in this, and they're good acting against each other.
It's a weird role. I mean, yeah, but you have to buy into the McKennas anyway. You know, there's the brothers who are violent, and they fight at the drop of a hat, Tom.
McKennas, the McGregors, whatever. Yeah, they use
The
those.
McKennas, the McGregors. I basically lumped them all into one.
And I think this is the one where John Ireland had the rights to the European release, and Robert Woods had the rights to the American release, and basically it just went to video. There wasn't any, there might have been in Europe, there might have been some theatrical releases, but it sure wasn't released over here.
You're not missing much if you don't see it. Let's put to you that way. Not
a great
It's
one.
not high on either Woods or Ireland's list.
Right.
But, Tom, I've never seen Blood River before. You know, there's a few I haven't seen.
Yeah, but this is another one you haven't missed too much. I mean, look at Fabio Testi and John Ireland, you think, and Rosalba Neri. Wow, and Daniel Martin. You'd think this would be a pretty good one. But this was also called 10 White Victims of the Little Indian.
Yeah, Tom, among my plethora of titles, this is not one of them.
It's a 73.
I guess for good reason, too, huh?
Came towards the middle. It's not a comedy. 73 Italian-Spanish, directed by George W. Breakston, who is Gianfranco Baldinello. It's about the film focuses on the problems of a rich land rancher named Abel Webster, and Abel Webster is played by John Ireland. His son's wife is a half-breed named Catherine, played by Rosalba Neri, who is in love with a stranger named Ringo, played by Fabio Testi. Abel also finds out he is not to be, as expected, the inheritor of the Webster fortune. 30 years ago, he and 9 of his neighbors and friends massacred an Indian village in order to obtain the tribe's land. One problem, a small boy named Condor escaped the massacre and has now grown into a vengeful warrior out to kill the 10 men who were responsible for the annihilation of his family and tribal members. Condor is helped in his revenge by Indians from the afterlife. And Condor is played by Daniel Martin. So this one's sort of a sci-fi, Western,
Oh
a little bit
man,
different.
it
Trying
was
to make it.
bizarre, Tom. I mean, from what I read from when I'm reading your review here, yes, that's something I don't know. I might have to pass on this one, Tom.
Yeah, it's pretty cheaply made, so don't look for any blockbuster here. And the strange thing is, it's one of the few Italian westerns that deals with the Indians. It's not a Carl May Winnetou film. It's an
Oh,
Italian film.
for a
Yeah.
non-Carl May film, it deals with Indian situation,
Yep.
kind of like a
And I
John
won't
Ford film,
get into
Tom.
the ending because it's too confusing. You'll have to watch it yourself.
Oh, no thanks, Tom. You can keep that free copy you were going to give me.
Even when you read it, it doesn't make any sense. So
Okay. So anyway, you can see near the end of his spaghetti western career, it was getting toward being like the others decisions they made. Maybe it for the money. Maybe it's a 1 week. Yes, it was a 1 week shoot.
yep. keep your name on the marquee.
Exactly. So that might explain the last two films that he made or appeared in. The last one is basically Tom's not allowed to watch because of his upbringing. But he did make a film, not to be confused with the classic Humphrey Bogart comedy, We're No Angels. We Are No Angels.
We Are No Angels. Noi non siamo angeli. It's a 1970 Italian film directed by Frank Kramer, Gianfranco Parolini, so you'd think there'd be a lot of action in it. And this is one of those Trinity knockoffs, starring Michael Colby and Paul Smith as clones of Terence Hill and Bud Spencer. Woody Strode's in it. John Ireland is in it. And Ireland's the villain. A gigantic Scotsman named Raphael, played by Paul Smith, and his stepbrother, Angel, played by Michael Colby, set out to get rich with disastrous results. They rig a prize fight with a large black prize fighter, played by Woody Strode, to buy a car. Their scheme is to compete in a downhill road race from which the winner will get the right to a railroad transport contract, which will apparently make them rich. There are love interest and infinitely running gag with a toilet, slapstick, lots of bopping of heads, greasy mafioso thugs, and fart humor. So it's a top of the line dud.
I can't see why this isn't up there with
Oh my God, yeah,
with the classics.
yeah. And this came out on DVD early. It's like holy mackerel.
This is in the bin at J.C. Penney, Tom, in the
Exactly.
dollar bin section.
Oh yeah. Can't
Anyway,
miss this
I'm just
one.
kidding. Another one I haven't seen, Tom.
Good.
We were, you know what? That's why these later shows, it's cool because I saw the first 500. Now we're dabbling with films I barely ever saw.
Here's
And maybe
another
for good reason, Tom.
Here's another strike, Jay. Right below Paul Smith on the poster, Renato Sesti. That's that irritating little kid that's in It Can Be Done, Amigo, and a bunch of other.
No,
Oh my
or
God.
A Providence.
Yeah,
Join
that's
me
just-
for lunch.
Oh, forget it. Yeah. This thing's got not 3 strikes against it. This got about 6 strikes against it.
And he played Mr. Shark.
Yeah. Ireland played Mr. Shark.
Is that up there with the John Rock or Steve Rock, Tom?
Yeah. Yeah, Cement Rock or whatever his name was.
What was
Yeah.
his name? Matt Rock?
Rock Steel or something. Yeah, something
Rock
like that.
Steel.
Yeah.
That's right. I like that, Tom.
Oh, brother.
Anyway, speaking of Rock Steel, let's segue to his last film, Tom, in the spaghetti western genre. Now, I've heard of a lot of spaghetti western stars after they're done. How many of them appear in a softcore porn, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, what a cast. This one's called Garden of Venus or
I bet.
Las Mujeres de Jeremias. It's a 1979 USA Mexican Spanish film co-production.
Look, Tom, Chuck Connors.
Yeah, Chuck Connors is in it. Michael
We're
Connors
going to make
is
a
in
porny, everybody.
it. Jorge Rivero's in it. Isela Vega, who just
Tom,
passed
what
away.
version have
not
you
long-
seen, the R or the X, Tom?
No, I've seen the R. I'm sorry, Jay.
Kind of like the Caligula of spaghetti westerns, Tom.
I think I saw it on Mexican TV from L.A., so it had to be an R. But directed
Right.
by Ray Fellows, who's Amadeo Alvarez. I'm sorry. And this one, the concept is pretty cool. Some great stars. It's about the Daltons who try and buy a bordello from a family who has recently inherited it. The Daltons want a rich silver deposit buried under the property. Basically, it's a comedy western with Chuck Connors, Isela Vega, Jorge Rivero, Michael Conrad, Andres Garcia, and
Might have
John
to edit out
Ireland.
that photo, Tom.
There you go. But it's and Jorge Rivero is a father with and Isela Vega. They're parents of like 4 beautiful women, and the men are always after them. So they leave this town because they've inherited a ranch that they think they've inherited. When they get there, they find out it's a bordello. So now they've still got men coming around thinking, look at these beautiful prostitutes that they brought in, and it's this reverend's daughter. So it's a nice concept, but it's
right.
like,
But
it's
as
a
I
comedy.
said, Tom, it's going to be known just as a softcore
comedy. Yep.
spaghetti western, right? And I'm making a big deal. It's not pornography, but it's just as a brothel, and the rest you can just imagine. It was capitalizing on that time frame, and John Ireland and Chuck Connors just happened to be in it. So in case you're just joining us, we've just wrapped up the spaghetti western career of John Ireland. Great character actor, B-movie actor in both spaghetti westerns, film noir, dramatic classics. Just a face you remember. The great John Ireland, and I don't think he's gotten his props. So maybe with this show, we've enlightened you about his Italian western career. So I just wanted to say thank you for everybody joining us out on Facebook land and in YouTubeville. This is our usual weekly podcast, episode number 48, and that we will be going probably on a hiatus after episode 50. Then after a short restiture at our favorite spa, we'll return with an interviews-only type of format. So we'll have a special guest every week. Tom has been working double duty. And yes, on episode 4 will be Claudia, Tom. When we return, Claudia Cardinale, who no one remembers. Remember, Tom?
That's right.
Yeah. So that's a book. Anyway, no, to be in all honesty, it's an interview-driven show, and we hope you'll join us. We might change time zones, we'll see. But that was episode 1, season 1 was 50 episodes. And then season 2, we figure another 50. Like in television, Tom. Although they shoot sometimes 26 shows, but this is a live show, Tom.
Well, we could go to like the network and the
It's
cables
like Red
and only
Skeleton, Tom.
we could go to
This
the
is
cable and only
Laugh-In,
do
Tom.
13 shows.
Right. After 13, today's is 13, and that's it. But back in
That's
the
a
day,
season, yeah.
you shot out 50 episodes in the can. It could be 1 or 2 seasons long. Anyway, we also want to thank everybody who have decided to join us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. So if you don't want to watch this back in your car, or you have I don't know if Sirius XM carries it, but I know iTunes is everywhere. We're on these 4 major platforms, the top 4 in the world. They begged, they crawled. I finally accepted their offer, Tom. It was a bidding war, but I said, all of you can have a little bit of the pie.
I think
So
we're
anyway,
on. I think we're on. Not serious. Not serious, but not serious.
Anyway, so thank you for your support. You can catch past audio versions on those platforms. So now it's time for the second part of our show that I just disappear and it's just Tom, one segment after another. So Gertrude, my aunt, or is it my grandmother? I don't know. They're both named Gertrude. So Tom will now lead us into our next segment, which is the Eagly, which is the easily most anticipated book of the week, and we bring that to you right now.
Book of the week. This one's on Giorgio Artisan, the Italian James Bond. It was written by Matt Blake. It's on Wild Eyes, the publisher. It's got 220 pages. It came out in 2014. It's in English. It's available on Abe Books for like $29. Oops, always do that wrong. And it's his entire career. Color pictures, black and white pictures. Goes through his different films, interviews. It's very good. George Artisan made about 4 or 5 spaghetti westerns, a couple of Zorro films. So very interesting book, and I recommend it. So that is the book of the week. All right, album of the week. In honor of the late, great director who passed away, Monty Hellman, last week, I have China 9, Liberty 37. This is by Pino Donaggio. It's on Cinevox, came out in 1978. Number MDF 22.123. It's mono, has 13 tracks, and the value on this baby is anywhere from $28 to $75, depending on condition. As you can see, I bought my copy for $9.98 at Music Market. So I got it when it was at the low end. And that is the album of the week, Jay.
So apparently I showed the autograph of the week graph or graphic, and you didn't notice it, Tom. So for autograph of the week...
No, it was covered up at the top.
So obviously, for autograph of the week, I'll show album of the week.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we present to you Tom Betts' album of the week.
And that's the album. And that's the album of the week, Jay.
I was trying to get you to stay on course, to like Simon Says, Tom. I hope you caught it, everybody. I was trying to play reverse fun. What's autograph of the week, Tom?
I got a Terrence Hill here from Troublemakers, or The Fight Before Christmas. And this one I got from Neil Summers, my friend that played Virgil in this, and or Dodge, played Virgil on Lucky Luke. And this was, 1994? Says to Tom, all the best, Terrence Hill. So that's one of my best.
Let's show that again, Tom. Yep, he was right there, right, Tom?
He was right there.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we now present to you Tom Betts and WIA Vault of the Week.
The Vault of the Week, we actually covered John Ireland in a memorial issue. So we did a whole issue just on his films, just like what Jay and I did today. And again, black and white pictures of his films. Basic synopsis of the films. And that's what we did. I don't know the date of this thing. It doesn't have a date on it. It just has memorial issue. So that's the Vault of the Week.
Fantastic, Tom. And now we move on to a new favorite that everybody has been dying for. Yeah. It's time for Tom's Poster Attic.
Jay found my hiding place.
I found a picture with him actually at the attic.
At the attic, breaking out. So these are the posters this week. First one is, if I can get it, here we go. I have to stand up for this one. American Hate for Hate.
Nice, Tom. I have the one sheet. This is 10 times better. Crack, slice,
back in the
tear,
ball.
Rip, retape.
And this is the Belgian.
There's the Belgian, Tom. You'll have a nice size mic hole there in a second. Wow, Tom, that's like a little,
what do you want to call
I don't think that's categorized as anything.
No.
That could be just from a magazine. Okay, that's nice, Tom.
This is the Spanish Pancho Villa rides. Okay, one of the bigger ones. This one's different, Jay. This is the full
Oh,
American Villa rides.
yeah. You don't listen. Tom's been holding out there in his poster attic.
All right, there's a French.
Nice.
Gatling gun.
Very sweet, Tom. My mouth is just wide open. You've been hiding out. You've been keeping it from me, Tom.
That's where they're in the vault.
That is the fault.
We got two more here real quick. Mark Damon.
Wow. I am just starstruck, Tom. I don't have any of those.
No?
I have the US one sheet, Tom. That's about it.
Your favorite.
Of course
We Are
it
No
is.
Angels.
You've been holding out on me, Tom.
Yep, you want that one? Now this one here.
You want that one? No, I'll take the Django one sheet.
Signed.
Did you just notice that for the first time?
Oh, no. I saw it there when I got it out. Signed by Paul Smith. This is when it was at the Beverly Garland. He was there. And he autographed that one for free. Jay, he probably wanted me to get the hell out of there real quick. He didn't want anybody to see it.
That is fantastic, Tom. Once again, that was...
Back in the vault it goes.
Oh, I could just sit back and watch that all
Sure
day.
you could. Sure
The
you
great
could.
Tom Betts and his poster addict. Or is that addict, Tom? Are you
Addict,
addicted to
yes,
the poster
addict.
addict?
Addict.
Okay. I am. Oh, Tom, for someone who's a poster nut like I am, Tom says, I've got surprises for you every week. I'm like, yeah, what? Who you dating this week? And instead he breaks out the posters from the vault. That's a dream come true for me. Anyway, so we now end that segment of Tom's fantastic reviews with the one and only weekly news that only Tom can deliver. And we bring that to you right now.
Okay, we start off this week with a new book called Por un Puñado de Euros, o Genio de Leone, o Coaxio de Django, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, it's by Emmanuel Neto and Pedro Pereira. It's published by Chiado Books in Portugal. It's in Portuguese with 188 pages, and it was released on April 2021. The book is, of course, a compilation of some of the reviews that we've published during the last 10 years or so in the blog with the same name. It's not a technical themed book. It's about two kids that grew up in the 90s on a small border town in which the main VHS rental place was called Trinita. So you can go on Facebook and check it out, and it's been popping up all week on there. The other one that's come out is a new German Blu-ray and DVD release of Minnesota Clay, 1964, directed by Sergio Corbucci, starring Cameron Mitchell.
I love Minnesota Clay, Tom.
This one's on Blu-ray now.
That's going to look awesome. Yep.
Anyways, it stars Cameron Mitchell, George Rivera, Fernando Sancho, Ethel Rojo, Diana Martin. This is on Explosive Media Label. It's in Region B and 2 in PAL. Dolby Digital 2.0, German, English, Italian, with German and English subtitles. Running time is 88 minutes. Extras include a trailer, alternate ending, German opening credits, English opening credits, and a photo gallery. And this came out the 29th, so that was yesterday. As far as passings are concerned, and I checked with Jay on this one before I started, but a couple last night. Film producer Ann Douglas, philanthropist and widow of Kirk Douglas, died at her Beverly Hills, California home at 102. She was born Hannelore Marks on April 23rd, 1919 in Hanover, Lower Saxony, Germany. She worked for director John Huston as a location scout and assistant on Moulin Rouge in 1952, then began a 3-year stint in 53 as head of protocol at the Cannes Film Festival, scheduling parties and making sure they were filled with celebrities and media. She later became a casting director and a film producer after marrying Kirk Douglas in 54. Ann was a producer on the 1973 semi-Euro Western Scalawag. I've always considered it a pirate film, but if you look at it and research it, it takes place during the California Gold Rush in the 1850s, so it's a borderline Western. We also want to recognize the passing of Lee Aker, who played Rusty on Rin Tin Tin, and a friend of mine who I went to college with, Johnny Crawford, died last night. He has had Alzheimer's for the last couple of years, and he just turned 75 on March 26th. He's the son of actor, film editor Robert Crawford, the brother of actor Bobby Crawford, and he's remembered by most of us as Mark McCain in The Rifleman. So his passing was a sort of a shock because we knew he had Alzheimer's, but they put a video of him on Facebook not too long ago from his birthday party on the 26th, and he looked decent. Other things this week, birthdays include Francis Lai, turned 89 on the 26th, film composer. Ricardo Pizzuti turned 88 on the 28th. Agnes Spock turned 77 on the 29th. And Dan Van Heusen would have been 76 today. And those are the birthdays of the week, and that includes the weekly news.
Wow. That is a sad week indeed, Tom.
Yep, hit us like a bolt yesterday.
No, I watched The Rifleman. Paul, I'm going to miss you, Paul.
Pa.
Now they're together, right? Rifleman and...
Yep. Chuck Connors.
Yeah, what was his character on the show, though, Tom?
Lucas McCain.
No, the kid.
Oh, Johnny. Oh, Mark McCain. I'm sorry. Johnny Crawford, Mark McCain, yes.
Johnny. Johnny Crawford played
Mark
Johnny.
McCain.
Okay, Tom. But no, he didn't look well from the videos that I saw, Tom.
The first time I saw him at Word on Westerns, and this had to be 10 years ago, he walked in, all I saw him was from the back.
He looked a little frail to me, Tom.
Very skinny, gray hair, and I'm going, who's that? Because everybody went up to talk to him.
Talented guy, one of the great rope twirlers of all time,
Oh, yeah,
Tom.
yep. He was in a film in 2019 when he just started off with the Alzheimer's plug called The Marshal, and it's available.
So that and the kid from Rin Tin Tin last week, right, Tom?
Lee Aker, yeah. But he was messed up.
Lee
Aker was messed
played
up.
sons to the lead.
Yeah,
Both
Lee Aker
passed
was
within
messed
a week
up.
of each other. Well, that's sad news. Anyway, Tom, who do we got up for next week, you were telling me?
Next week we have Wade Preston.
Underappreciated Colt 45, Tom?
Colt 45.
Underappreciated. Wade made a ton of spaghetti westerns, both good and so-so. But he's a presence, and he always rugged good looks. That's why he was a big hit on U.S. television before he was one of the stars that went to Europe.
Remember Brett Halsey told us he was a bit of a troublemaker.
Well, you know why he's upset, Tom? Because on the posters they took out the A, and he was
wide Preston. Yeah, he must have put on a few pounds.
WYDE.
Yes, I think Jay, that's the way they pronounced Wade over there, so that's how they spelled it.
That's what I thought his name was for years.
Wide
until Tom
Preston.
corrected me. Who's this Wide Preston, Tom? So anyway, we want to thank you all for joining us on episode number 48 of the Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns podcast, the only podcast dedicated to spaghetti westerns. And as I said, after our 50th show, we will take a short hiatus, redo the sets, get Tom a new mic, and I'm just kidding, folks. And then we'll be fresh and ready to go. Other than that, we want to thank you, all the fans, almost 1,500 strong here on the social networking platforms, and a new fan base of a couple hundred just in a few weeks on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, and Google Podcast. But anyway, we do have some surprises that have been mentioned before, some previews. We have just nothing but guests after show 50. We'll take a little hiatus, and then back we'll be. So I'm sorry if you're going to miss your daily fix. There's 50 episodes you can watch on a bunch of platforms. Pick a topic, you can watch it back, and then before you know it, we'll be back. So Tom, any shout-outs to anybody?
No shout-outs this week.
Not even to Tony Williams, Tom.
Tony Williams, always a shout-out to Tony.
Anyway, so to all our fans and friends out there in Spaghetti Western Land, we bid you adieu. And as Tom
I've got a couple of shout-outs. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Eric Miche, John Crummett, they're both celebrating wedding anniversaries this week.
Happy
John's been married for 50 years. He must have had Joni must have been a child bride.
Wow.
And I feel sorry for Melanie, Eric Miche's wife, so having to spend that many years with him. But
that's it for the shout-outs, Tom?
That's it for the shout-outs.
Okay, everybody. We want to thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week on the Spaghetti Westerns podcast, the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. You're outside of the Spaghetti Western database. We think the 1-2 punch of what you need. We're the archives of everything Spaghetti Western. So we want to thank you for joining us. Tom, adios, amigo.
Adios, amigos.
And adios, compañeros. We'll see you next week on the Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns podcast.
Thank you for joining us on the Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns podcast. Join us next time for more informative reviews, interviews, and recollections. Adios, amigos.